want to welcome everybody to our Unity Center DC Zoom service. And we have a really wonderful service coming up. My name is Kathleen. I'm the platform assistant. And we get to have back with us today Jan Phillips, who hasn't been here for a while. And she has written a new book, and actually her talk has the same title as her book. So I think we're going to get a little preview here. And it's called Stop Seeking, Start Finding. It's an invitation to spiritual evolution for spiritual evolutionaries. So for my prayers, I've chosen haikus. I'm going to read them 3 times. Okay. And I just take, you're just going to hear one of them down. I'll do one at the end. I'm going to read it 3 times. And I ask that you just sit in silence and listen to it and just take it in. And my first one is by Chokyu Ni. I think she was Japanese, lived in the 18th century, but to give you a little background, she comes home and she's been away for a while, and she comes home and her home has been destroyed. Violets here and there in the ruins of my burnt house. Violets here and there in the ruins of my burnt house. Violets here and there in the ruins of my burnt house. Amen.
It's a little island of peace, musical peace in turbulent times. It's a Lotus on Irish Strings by John McLaughlin.
Thank you, Dave. It's so beautiful to be here in the presence of such originality and creative selflessness. I have the opportunity to be here with you as a speaker today, and what I'm going to talk about or share comes from my newest book, Stop Seeking, Start Finding. Because this year I turned 76. Can I hardly believe that? And so I'm in a hurry to like get it all out, say it all, sing it all, speak it all before it's too late. I have a sister who's 3 years older than me, and we live together. And she's always saying, I've had the greatest life and I'm ready to go now. You want to go with me? And I said, well, I've had the greatest life too. I could go with you. She goes, okay, here's how it would go. We'll put on our shorty pajamas. We'll lay down and we'll hold hands on your bed. We'll close our eyes and tell them we're ready. And then they'll come and get us. So I said, okay, we can do that. But then shortly thereafter, the election results, and I said, wait, I have more work to do. I can't go yet because look what's happening in our nation. So she go, well, I'm not waiting for you. And a few weeks ago, I came home from Unity Church on Sunday morning and went into her bedroom. And there she was in her shorty pajamas, in a beautiful pose with a smile on her face. And she had left the planet. And that to me is such a perfect manifestation of communicating with the powers that be and letting them know you're ready to go and asking for that liftoff. And that's some kind of miracle to me. So I think that I'm trying to figure out best ways to harvest what's mine now, given that I've had all these years on the planet. So Stop Seeking, Start Finding is really an offshoot of a Rumi line. And his line was stop learning, start knowing. Stop learning, start knowing. Because look at us. We have accumulated so much experience, and only we can turn that experience into wisdom and figure out, what do I know now because of what I've experienced? And usually there's an arc to the experience where the hero, me, you, starts out on a journey with a mission. We enter into the forest and we meet with the demons, and there's a battle. And the conflict that ensues is what shapes our character. And at the end of the conflict is what's called the denouement. And that's the resolution. And it's how we each figure out what did that teach us. Because hardship is a teacher. And so to be able to harvest our conflicts and hardships in a way that has no blame, that has no bitterness, where everything is fully forgiven, because behind the willingness to forgive is a greater knowing that ultimately there's nothing to forgive. I was kicked out of the convent after just 2 years, mainly because they have figured out that I was gay, and it's not, nobody wants to have gay people in the convent. This was 1969. So I was dismissed quickly, suddenly. They called my parents come pick me up. I had no time to prepare. So it was traumatic and catastrophic for me, because since I was in 6th grade, I knew I wanted to be a nun. So I never had any other plan B, plan C, or anything. So when that didn't work out, I was in a total tailspin. And the one thing that I was grateful for is my theology teacher, Father Grabis, who taught us in the postulate that we really had to let go of religion in order to forge a faith of our own. And so when I sat down to do Stop Seeking, I knew the form was going to be a book of hours, because a book of hours, it's medieval, it's from the Middle Ages, it's when the monks broke the day, 24 hours, into 8 different parts and created times to pray based on those 3-hour segments. And you've all heard the word Vespers, probably you've heard Lauds. In the convent, we said Vespers at 5, we said Lauds at 6 a.m. But it gives you a structure. Gives me a structure to create a book based on 8 segments in every day. So 7 days a week, 8 segments, that gave me 56 units. The most important part when we're harvesting our wisdom, creating what we're going to create to leave behind as our legacy, is to have an architecture, a structure to lay it out on, to flesh it out, a skeleton to flesh out with our knowing. And every one of us here should be thinking about this. How can you, what is the way you're going to leave your legacy, right? So this is kind of a legacy project. The architecture is a book of hours. And so I have these segments. And so the way that the book is formatted is that it has a quote, because over the course of my life, there's a number of quotations that I've accumulated from the readings that I've done that have kind of led me, directed me through life. So I said, start with a quotation, and then I'll have one page for what I'm saying about that quotation. And then I'll have one photograph, because a photo's worth 1,000 words, and I'm a photographer. And then I'll make a poem. So there's 4 elements in for every section. So the quotation I'm going to read today is this: God is not attained by a process of addition to anything in the soul, but by a process of subtraction. God is not attained by a process of addition to anything in the soul, but by a process of subtraction. And that's from the German mystic Meister Eckhart. And I think what I'll do, since it's a short little section, is just read a little from this page where I'm talking about that quote. It's only our ideas of separation that keep us from experiencing our oneness with others, the creatures, the forests, and the force of creation itself. If you think it is, then it is for you. We don't have to pray hard, work hard, stay on our knees till our tears flow. We don't have to cry out, beat our breasts, recite mea culpas. We don't have to pile on penances, novenas, or lamentations. All we have to do is delete any notion that our relationship with the divine requires these activities. We are completely one with all that is from the moment we arrive on earth. The kingdom of heaven is around and within us. It is earth. We let go of the old to discover the new, as we let go of illusions to discover the real. Erasing the blackboard that others have filled with wrong ideas is a good first step. Turn down the volume on people who talk as if God is light years away. Take up a new mantra. I've never been separate. As you breathe, what you once sought burns inside you. So the thing that we're letting go of, the thing that all of us have let go of, because look where we're at this morning. We're a community jointly praying in a unity form. This is Unity Church. We follow the patterns, we follow the structures, and in order to be unity, it usually happens that we've subtracted from our past so many religious notions that we inherited. And that I'm Catholic. Anybody here who was raised Catholic, God help us, we have a ton of things to subtract. in order to be in the presence of that divinity, which we thought we were seeking. Now, the reality of our lives is that we're the very thing. We are the very thing. We're cells in the body of God. So there's nothing to seek. It's unavoidable. So our spiritual lives are not fortified necessarily by any doctrine, because the fact that we're unity is pretty much an expression of our freedom from the old and our celebration of the faith that we ourselves are creating that leads us to this community of unity. So that it's a living thing. I set my alarm this morning so I could have a half an hour for my own prayers before I joined you all, because I need that solitary time with my great beloved every day before I go out into the world. So the religions that some of us have abandoned have probably shaped much of what we do and what we think. But the faith that we've created, what I know about this from Father Grubis that I started telling you, is we're all postulates, 30 of us sitting in the classroom looking all dressed all the same, looking all the same. And he comes into the room and he says, all right, I want somebody to stand up and tell me about your relationship with this God you're about to marry. And I right away, I didn't like him very much, because it was so forceful and demanding. So one of the sisters stands up and said, God the Father is created me to have an everlasting life in heaven, something like that. Something we learned out of the Baltimore Catechism. He goes, that's it, sit down. Another one stands up, says something right out of the Baltimore Catechism, really remote, impersonal. But I knew it was right, so I said, that's right, she's got that right. He says, that's the best you got? She says, yes, Father. He says, sit down. Oh no, now I start to have my first anxiety attack. I feel this little tear come down because I'm now in turmoil. I don't know what's going on. The third one stands up, says another thing right out of the Baltimore Catechism. He's disgusted with the whole group of us. And so he says, you're like a bunch of parrots. I don't think you have an original thought. We're going to have to work really hard for you to know the difference between faith and religion. And he said, your religion is all those doctrines, all those beliefs, all that dogma that you inherited. We're just going to take that and put it up there on the top shelf, and we're not going to go there again for the rest of the semester. And your faith is something that you create based on your ultimate commitments. And now I'm worried again because I don't know what ultimate commitments means. So he had to really back up and meet us where we were at, which is 18-year-old girls who believed everything they were told by all the men in our lives in the church. So to subtract that, we had to subtract that in order for us to be able to create a faith based on our ultimate commitments. And what it came down to ultimately was the thing he said you're living for, the thing that you die for, the thing what would never happen in your life if you were there, because you would not allow something to happen. That go there to find your ultimate concerns. And I just basically backed up all the way to Jesus, because he was my best, most intimate teacher. And I raised myself on this little book called My Daily Bread. And I felt really close to Jesus. So for my ultimate commitments, I said, I'm just committed to being a peacemaker, to being a light in the world, and to standing for peace and justice wherever I am. And then that's what I came to when I was 18 years old, and when I had first subtracted all the baggage I had in my head. And that was from 18 to 76. Those ultimate commitments have been what's guided my life, my every move, my choices, always. What's it look like to stand for justice and peace, to be a light in the world? What's that look like? And so every one of us has ultimate concerns that are guiding our lives and moving us to the choices that cause us to be a light in the world. So how are we translating it? How do we move from our own quiet, solitary, spiritual practice? How does that translate into how we act in the world? And I'm saying nobody here needs to be preached at. Everybody here could take a turn at doing the Sunday message. And next week, it could be Philip. And the week after, it could be Sandy. And then Jane, and then Scott. And you take responsibility for harvesting an experience of your life and sharing it with the group. Because divine revelation is happening through us, to us, all the time. Didn't stop with Isaiah, didn't stop with Daniel and Jeremiah. That spirit, that prophetic spirit, is still being expressed in the world, broadcast through all the airwaves that we're breathing and communicating with. So for you all to sit down and think of those experiences that you've had where your faith has led to your actions that have led to a greater good in the world is something worth harvesting. The stories of your life are the stories of your faith. To be able to know how to back up into them, sort them out, put them down in some form so you could share them in some way, that's the work of the Lord these days. And I happen to share mine in photographs, books, note cards. Kathleen, you should share yours in haiku, right? Dave, share his in music. Figure out what's the best way for you to share the legacy of your life. My mom wrote letters to Chad, memories from my childhood. She just made, 25 letters to her grandson because she was afraid she'd be senile or dead by the time he was interested in her stories. And she gave me the letters and I turned them into a book at Kinko's. It's a piece of cake, but it is time for us to say, well, I've had at least 10 experiences. I'm going to write them down, figure out what I learned from those upsets and breakdowns, and have those be the stories that you share in the world as a faith-giving thing you have for others. Stop seeking, start finding. Find your own wisdom. Take a look at the biggest events of your life and really look into them to see what did they give you. Because at one time being kicked out of the convent was the worst thing that ever happened. And now being kicked out of the convent is the best thing that ever happened. So in between one of those and the other of those is a story. That's what we're here to share. Amen. I'm going to lead us into a meditation now. So if you will, sit upright in your chair, wherever you are, put your feet firmly on the ground. Close your eyes and feel into our relationship, your relationship with the earth that sustains you and supports you, that holds you up. Express your gratitude to the earth for all the ways it feeds you, for all the beauty it provides you with. Feel the energy. Feel the energy of the earth come right up into your feet, up your legs, through your thighs, into your belly, into every hollow, energizing your life, beating your heart, feeding your cells. Feel that energy through your arms, into your hands, into your fingers. Feel it in your throat. Into your head. Feel the union of energy and love as all the fire, all the air, all the love from the celestial realms enters into you from above. And joins with that great power from the earth. Give thanks to the invisible forces that are as much who we are as everything that can be seen, heard, and felt. Give thanks to all the energies that empower us to be faithful servants of love and justice and peace. Be mindful of the ways you've added light and love to the world this week. How you've brought happiness to someone. How you've shared a story, a poem, a song with someone. How you've reached out to bring comfort, or how you've asked for comfort yourself. Be grateful for the sharing and knowing that in each capsule of communion is the divine entire. Amen.
This is written by Richard Wright, and he was living in Paris at the end of his life. And last year and a half, he had a lot of physical illnesses, the physical pain from illnesses, and and just emotions. And so this is in, he taught himself how to write haiku, because at that time meditation wasn't that well known in the West. So here is one of his haiku poems. I'm going to read it 3 times. As my anger ebbs, the spring stars grow bright again, and the wind returns. As my anger ebbs, the spring stars grow bright again, and the wind returns. As my anger ebbs, the spring stars grow bright again, and the wind returns. Amen.